this video, I'm first going to talk a little bit about file organization, and then I'm going to show you how to install both R and RStudio. So file organization for this course is going to be important because you're going to download a lot of files from Canvas, and then also eventually we're going to get to the point to when we're working in R. R is also going to generate some files, and we want to make sure that we're able to find those files on your computer after they're generated. So if you're typically, if your typical workflow when you're working on your computer is that you put everything in your downloads and you work out of your downloads folder, you really don't want to do that for this course. This course you want to have some organized folders that you're working out of. And so to start this video, I'm going to show you how I do that on a Mac. So the first thing that I do is I work with OneDrive. All University of Kentucky students have a free OneDrive account. OneDrive is cloud storage, so if you've used OneDrive before, but you've always had to go to the website to access your files, you can also access them on your computer by installing the app. So to do that, if you go to your Launchpad, and I'm just going to click on or type in store so I can find the App Store. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to search for OneDrive. Now on my computer, you'll see, it's giving me the open option because I already have OneDrive, but if you didn't, it will give you the Get option. And so you'll want to go ahead and download and install OneDrive on your computer. And then when you go to log in, you'll want to log in using your UK email and password. So this is the same email and password you use to log into Canvas or to log into My UK, and that will get you into your University of Kentucky OneDrive account. And so that way all the files will be on your computer and you can work on it that way, and then they'll sync to the cloud as well. So let me show you on my computer what that looks like. So like I said, I already have OneDrive. So when I click on Finder, you'll notice here under Locations, I have a OneDrive option. And so if I click here, all of my different folders appear. So this will be where you'll want to create a folder to share or to have all the information for this course. Now I have a lot of different folders because I use OneDrive all the time. But you'll see I have one called UK Classes. Oops. Sorry, I don't usually use a Mac, so my touchpad is a little sensitive here. There we go. And you'll notice I have another folder called BST 535. I've got one for this fall because I teach this multiple semesters. And then I have a folder called Notes. Now you don't need all of these because obviously you're only taking this course once. You're not going to have multiple iterations of it. But I would recommend having a folder that's for this course. And then inside of that folder, you could organize your folders a couple different ways. You could have, for example, I've got a folder here called Notes, and then inside of Notes, you could have a folder for each of the weeks. And so for each week, you could put each week's content in there. Another option would be to have a folder for notes and maybe one for assignments. And so from here, it's kind of up to you how you want to organize this. But the important thing is to make sure that you've got a folder in OneDrive that's for this course. And then you've got some way within that folder that you're going to organize all of the downloads for this course. Now, if you've never created a new folder before, you can do that by going up to File. And then you'll see there's an option for a new folder. You can click on that and then give it whatever name that you want. So I said we're going to be downloading a lot of files onto your computer. So next I want to show you in Canvas how to do that. So here I have Canvas pulled up. And I've used Safari to pull this up. Now one thing with Safari is in the preferences it defaults to downloading everything to your downloads. If you keep that setting, then what you'll want to do is then copy your files into the current folder. What I would recommend doing instead is to go to your preferences for Safari. So click on File and, go to, not File, but click on Safari and then Preferences. And you'll notice that one of these says File Download Location. So more than likely yours probably says Downloads. Instead, I would select Ask for each download. And so what this is going to do is for each file that you download onto your computer, it's going to pause and ask you, okay, well, where do you want to store that file? And so again, this is going to help you with that file organization. So for example, let me close this. This here, I've got week 1 lecture. You'll notice for each of the lectures, there's a file that goes along with them. Next to the file names, you're going to see a little download button. So if I click on this download button, it's going to ask me, where do you want to save this as, and what do you want to save this as, and where do you want to save it to? So to set where I want to save it to, I can again click on OneDrive, and then I can navigate to where in my OneDrive I want to save it. So since this is the first week's lecture, I would want to save it in week 1, and then I could click Save, and it will save that file, and now I know exactly where it is on my computer. If you need more help with this, if maybe you're having trouble downloading OneDrive, or you've never really worked with folders before and you get stuck, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help you through that process. And again, some people some people primarily use the downloads and search for files on their computer. Just with the way that R and RStudio is structured, it's much easier to go ahead and have that file structure set up on your computer and to know where your files are and where everything is being saved. So the next thing we're going to do, now that you've seen a little bit about file organization, is we're going to look at how to install both R and RStudio. Now they are going to be two different downloads and installs. We're going to download R first. And so one way that you can think of it is R is the language. So just like you've got the English language, for example. And then RStudio is what we're going to use as what's called the editor. And so, if you're going to type out the English language, you could type it out using Microsoft Word, or you could type it out using lots of other different programs. So R is kind of the same way. R is the language. We're going to use RStudio to be the editor. There are other editors out there, but RStudio is by far the most popular. So to find these, in order to download them, I'm just going to open up a new window in Safari, and I'm just going to Google the letter R. And if you'll do this, you'll know the first thing that pops up is the R project for statistical computing. We're going to click on it. And then it's going to have to download R option. I'm going to click there. And the first thing it's going to ask you to do is to pick a mirror. So essentially, the mirror is just where your computer is going to go to get the download. You just want to pick one that's close to you. It doesn't really make a big difference which one you choose. It's kind of like if you wanted to buy some Oreos. It doesn't really matter if you go to the Kroger that's 1 mile from you or the Kroger that's 5 miles from you, you're going to get the same Oreos. Same thing happens here. So I usually just go down to the United States. You'll see I picked Indiana before. Again, you could pick any of them. It's going to take it a second. If it's doing like it is here and it's running slow, we can always go back, choose a different mirror. So let's try Iowa. Okay, so Iowa's came up. And then we want to download R from a Mac. So you'll download that. It's going to take you through your regular install that you would have with any other software, and then you'll want to install that. So once you have that completely installed, you'll then want to download and install RStudio. So similar, open up a new tab here, but this time I'm going to look for RStudio. You're going to see RStudio Desktop, and the company is called Posit. So the company that owns RStudio used to also be called RStudio. They went through a name change a little under a year ago, and that company is now called Posit. So similar, we're going to click on RStudio. And you'll notice they even tell you the first step is to install R. So let's say you forgot that first step, they're going to tell you to install R. So we've already done that, so we're going to skip that and go on to step 2, which is install RStudio. And then you just click on the RStudio Desktop for Macs. If you have trouble with either of these installations, do make sure that your OS for your Mac is updated. If your OS is out of date, you may have trouble with these installs. If it has been if you are several updates back, you may have to go to an Apple store to get your OS updated. I have seen that in the past where people are maybe 5 or 6 iterations of their OS backdated, and you have to go to the Apple store and have that fixed. If you are having trouble with that, feel free to email me and let me know. I may or may not be able to help with it. It may be something that, again, you have to go to the Apple store to get that updated if you're several updates back. Right, now the last thing we want to do is make sure that R and RStudio both installed. So I'm going to escape from here. And I'm just going to go to my Launchpad. I'm going to type in R. So you should see both of these icons. This one right here with kind of that gray circle, that is the language. That's the first one you downloaded and installed. We're never going to click on this one. And the second one is RStudio. That's the editor. That's the one that you want. So if we click on it, should take it a second. It's going to open and look something like this. You'll see, obviously, I need to update mine. It's giving me the reminder. Yours won't do that if you just did a fresh install. So as long as you can open this, you saw both those icons, then you know that your installation worked well and everything is good to go. Right, and so that is all that we have for this video. If you have any trouble at all, whether it be with the installation or your file organization, please make sure to send me an email, or you could post to the discussion board, and I'll help troubleshoot to make sure that you get everything installed and you're good to go.